Yeah.
Okay, I'm recording now, and I'll just ask that question again, that you're going to share a little bit about the professors and students that you work with who use assistive technology. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my experience of using arXiv formally began last year, more precisely at the beginning of last year, that is in 2021, when I entered my sophomore year of undergraduate, and I started working on research projects, working as a research assistant and an intern under certain professors, mainly in mathematics. And I have seen them like live using a various number of research like assistive technologies while using arXiv, as well as while teaching and other things, like particularly while using arXiv. So one thing which is extremely common, I see that within within the professor community, as well as within the cohort of graduate students among various institutions, not only in India but also across the world, like they they save the archive page of their respective area of interest in their Google page. Like if I just try to share my screen, and I can show you that as well. I myself practice that as well. So here is my home screen, as you can see over here, and here is the page of the mathematics section of arXiv. And here I have just, it's not, yeah. I always bookmark that, to be very specific. I bookmark my overall like broad area page of arXiv so that it becomes convenient for me whenever I open, or whenever any faculty or any graduate student opens his home page, which is the most important place of him. Like whenever he opens it, he gets a direct access to that. More specifically, like within, as we know, physics, chemistry, mathematics, or many subjects, there are numerous divisions. So I have seen a few people who have bookmarked their specific page of interest. So as for me, my area of interest mostly spans across 3 areas of arXiv. So that's maths.nt, maths.ca, and maths.ho. So these are the very specific pages which I follow regularly. And so what I have done is that I have tried to bookmark them, which is, I think, a very helpful technology. It's a very simple and primitive form of technology. Anybody can do that, but it's quite helpful for easy access. This thing I have seen in many places. And apart from that, like this is while using the web page. And like in some cases, I have seen when people mostly use the laptops instead of their, let's say, mobile phones or tablets, then they when they use the mobile and tablets instead of the laptops, then they bookmark the page in their home page so that they have an easy access to that. Like instead of bookmarking the entire page of the subject, they bookmark the entire arXiv so that by just a click they can go to their respective pages. And these were very few primitive technologies. And apart from this kind of technology, I have also observed like people they use various kinds of you can say apps. Like when for suppose they want to search for something in the arXiv, and as we know, it's a huge repository of so many papers, so many information, so they may not exactly know the spelling or the topic of what they are wanting to search. So in that case, many of them use some different softwares to at first refine what they want to ask. Like they want to correct the spelling of any concept or any theorem, let's say, or any paper or any author which they want to ask, and then they search it on the arXiv. They search after that directly on the arXiv, not on the Google. So for this, the widely used software around the world is Grammarly, which they use. And so I can say that the usage of Grammarly runs more or less in parallel with that of arXiv, where the Grammarly is used to improve what they are searching, and so that the search results on arXiv are much more effective for them. So these are the two most widely used assistive technologies which I've encountered. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Do you have any professors or fellow students who have visual impairments, but maybe they're blind or they have difficulty seeing?
Yeah. So what happened basically is that I have one of my seniors from another colleges. So he had once contacted one professor. It's a she's a female professor of mathematics only from India. And as far as I knew, she had replied that some doctor had advised, this was earlier this year, like during the second wave of pandemic in our country. So some doctor had advised her to not look at the screen directly for long hours, but as we know, for research, the screen time naturally increases, because while reading papers and writing oral inferences, it takes a lot of time. But yeah, so that was the reply from him. Like, he told that she was instructed by her medical doctor to not look at the screen for a long amount of time, due to some reasons, or some, I don't know exactly what happened. But I guess that this is not only for the arXiv. Actually, after the pandemic, like our screen time has naturally increased a lot. Like, we spend so much of time on Google Meet, on Zoom, for so many purposes. But yeah, I think as active researchers, seeing and viewing and browsing, most importantly, browsing the arXiv, relentless browsing of the arXiv is very important and part and parcel of a life of a theoretical scientist, like a mathematician, or it can be a physicist, or it can be a quantitative biologist, or even a computer scientist. So I think for excessive usage or viewing the screen, some kind of diseases may occur, but I also think that is temporary. Like, it may not cause a certain amount of damage. That's surely recoverable.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that. We would really like to know in this interview, whatever it is that you feel it's important for arXiv to hear. I have a few questions that will just kind of kick things off, but really we would like the conversation to go wherever you think is most useful. So one of the questions that we have is, have you noticed any barriers on arXiv for people who use assistive technology? Are there any specifics that come to mind?
Yeah, from my experience, I can tell that the digital technology, like, I know many active academicians who have who are not that much familiar with digital technology. This is a fact. This is a fact all over the world, and especially after the pandemics, they had to adapt themselves to this system so fast that things took a wrong turn in some steps. But as far as the arXiv platform is concerned, I have specifically not encountered any active barrier as such, but I think that there are some scope of improvements which the arXiv authority can suggest the authors or the people who are submitting, which can improve the quality of each entry in arXiv. So I can share one of them. So one is that, like, in any paper I go, like, just 1 second, I'm just going to the example and just
okay, great. Yeah, screen shares are great. Thanks.
Yes. I'm just going to the particular screen and just share it. Yeah, I have come to the screen. I'm just sharing and telling. Yeah. So what I was basically referring to is that on an average, if I come across, let's say 10 or 20 entries, specifically in mathematics, I'm telling because it's in that field which I have the most experience in. So if I come across 10 articles on the arXiv in mathematics, so as we know, the basic format is that we have the title over here, we have the submission history, the V1, all the versions, and the name of the authors, respectively, a short abstract of the paper. And then this over here, this comes the most important part. And I have one suggestion to make regarding this part. In this particular paper, the submitters, the authors have been kind enough to add the DOI or any particular history of its submission after the paper has been accepted to a particular journal. Why I am saying this? Because is that in mathematics or in physics, many people, the objective of people is to write papers. It is not only to submit on arXiv. Yes, arXiv is great, it's a repository, but the main objective should be to submit it to a respective journal, to the journal which it deserves. But what happens is that people submit their preprints of the arXiv. It does go some changes, some editing and all that goes. But when I view that article, let's say after 2 or 3 months, and I know that article has been accepted to some journal in between, they do not update that over here. Now, I know some people who are more familiar with the arXiv system than they are by the journal system. So they cannot very easily browse journals or browse articles, browse issues to get them or to access them or to cite them in their work. but they are more familiar with the arXiv way. Now, if they come and let's say for this particular paper, if they like, I am studying this particular paper, that's why I found this as a perfect example for this situation. So if they see this paper and try to cite this, they will easily get a related DOI which links them to the journal publication of this particular entry. But half of the time this doesn't happen. So let us say the article has been submitted and the authors have also submitted it to a particular journal, and it gets peer reviewed. The process is quite long, and finally it gets printed and it gets published. I think it is on the duty of the authors, and the arXiv should remind them in some way to give a complete details of of their paper on this particular website. They should remember that when they're like the submission of the arXiv literally precedes the submission to a journal. So when they are submitting this over here in the first, they must provide complete and sufficient information for other viewers or other researchers to deal with that. Like I myself cited this paper, and I was just browsing in, like I was wondering, so which version to cite, the arXiv version or the Bulletin of the American Mathematical Society version? And over there in the internet, I found that someone told that cite the most recent version, which has been properly peer reviewed. But I thought that it is better to cite both the versions. Like there are some very responsible researchers as well in theoretical physics who cite like the journal entry of the article as well as the arXiv entry. So I just took that particular path. I went to the journal entry of this particular article when it was published and accepted, took the DOI from there, took the link from there, and cited it in the APA citation. But at the side of that, I also mentioned the arXiv entry, basically this particular number and the category, which is very important, so that it's very easy to for people or the researchers to trace the entry from both particular sites, so they get both the perspectives. But it is unfortunate that in many cases this is not done, and the paper gets accepted to the journal, but they do not update the journal reference. I think this is a bit of like this is a scope of improvement which people should consider for the future.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, we agree. That's a sticky problem.
Yeah.
It takes some additional action from the researcher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, in many cases, and actually, you know, like apart from let's say formal processes like journal citations, there is another problem which is also quite common actually. It is, and my common observation is that theoretical physicists are much more trained and educated in using online resources like this kind than mathematicians or chemists or computer scientists, because whenever they use any particular resources, and let's suppose they are giving a talk, it may be a research talk or it may be a review talk. So of like almost in every case, apart from giving the name of the author of which they are using the paper, they always cite the arXiv link, which I think is very important, which is extremely important, like to access it. And in many cases, they prepare the title of their slide, like the title of the talk, their name, joint work, if it's a joint work with anybody, or a solo work, if then it's their own name. And below that, the arXiv link to some of the papers. I think that without even giving the name of the papers to which you are referring, if you give the arXiv link, then that's enough. And if you give the arXiv link to the paper, and the arXiv link contains all the particular necessary information about which I talked just a few months back, then it's enough for the viewers to view that and use that in particular. So this is also training, but I agree that arXiv authorities will not have that much role to play in that, because while giving a talk, it's an individual matter. But this is also a practice which I would love for the academic cohort to adopt in the future.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you saying is that it's also cultural in different fields.
Yes.
Some fields
True.
have a culture of complete information as part of their arXiv.
I'm exactly referring to that only, the culture of complete information, so that people can get access to anything and everything.
Right. So there's probably a lot of educational opportunities there that arXiv does have a role to play there.
True.
Have you ever had to assist a professor or a fellow student who with a visual impairment or other disability in accessing research?
Yes, of course, like frequently, very frequently. So as I told you, like professors, I will not say that much because they have got a formal training in all things of this sort, and Usually, when they face any problem, they will go to a fellow professor, then a student for all these kinds of help. But as far as students is concerned, very frequently, many of them. So it's very sad. Like even among the people who are enthusiastic and interested in research, many of them are not. Many of them are not aware of the power of the archive. So they want to just type the name of the paper. They cannot access that. Many a times they are not familiar with some basic basic rules of writing or citing any paper or any author name. Like whenever they want to search any paper, they do not know the basic difference between the author names in mathematics and the author names in other sciences. Like, to be very specific, in other sciences, the author name follows a specific particular preference order in which the author has performed. Like there is the first author, there is the second author. The first author has performed the most work, the second author less than that, and greater than the third author, and so on. So there is a particular sequence. But in mathematics, there is no such sequence. And that's why when we are searching mathematics papers, it is very difficult to access any particular paper by using the usual phrase of et al. It works in basic science. But till date, I have, I guess, told many of my fellow students or even seniors or juniors to properly search paper, to properly use the archive, whenever they are another very important aspect in this particular question is that many people, when they cite papers from the archive, do not cite it completely. For example, it would be best if I share my screen and say, so when they're citing any paper from the archive, rarely uses DOI kind of thing, so that is different. But when they're citing, they just use this numerical portion. I understand that people may understand that it's from the archive when you are citing from there, but for the sake of completeness, it is necessary that you add the phrase of archive before that. And if necessary, and if you add the most recent version, it's the best. But okay, if you just add this thing, it's even better than what we were doing previously. So this thing, I think I have taught many of them, and I think many of them don't even know that if you just let's say click on the name of any author, then the list of his or her publication appears in reverse chronological fashion, of course. So I think, yeah, in within the student community, the awareness is quite less. And from my part, I do my best to improve that. And I hope things will improve in future. Yeah.
Have you ever helped a student who is blind or has visual impairments to access research?
Rarely, very rarely. So yeah, so one of the first students with whom I had worked last year had some kind of visual impairment. So he had underwent some kind of treatment, but it was not that serious, I would say. So I would what I would do for him is that instead of him spending long hours on the internet and searching for papers or various resources, I would take that responsibility on me to locate the particular resources which he is focusing on and send him the link directly so that his digital exposure reduces by some certain amount. That may be negligible, that may not be negligible. Yeah. So that is the kind of assistance which I have been able to do from my side. And very honestly speaking, as most of our college's life have been in online mode and we have not come in very much focus with others. So that has been but yeah, I've tried to do the best for my team.
Great, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I have a couple of questions about formats. arXiv offers often, the PDF is what people will go to.
Yes,
arXiv also has the source available for most papers. Do you have a format preference? What are your thoughts around the formats that the papers are available in?
Yeah. So regarding the format kind of question, so I think that I am more or less satisfied with the downloading. If you question about the accessing format of the papers in the archive, then I am more or less satisfied with that. I do not have much questions. Like in most of the cases, we know we need the PDF format only. So for that, in that case, option is works perfectly fine. Like when we are using any PC, there's a separate section for downloading and using that. And when we are using a mobile phone, then it comes just below that downloading the PDF. So I can say just one thing, like regarding a citation, so I think arXiv only allows us to export BibTeX citations. So I think if any other citation format is provided automatically on each link of paper, that would be a good thing. Yeah.
What other forms of citation would be most useful to you?
Yeah, like people use a lot. So basically what the form of citation which I use the most is the BibTeX, which is automatically available. But I would like that, let me again share the screen and just, yeah, if possible. So like here we see the export BibTeX citation section. If authorities make some more options on this, like export BibTeX citation, export Chicago citation, export APA citation, then I think it would be a good thing for people who use various different kinds of citations. Like we have many more people, and as days as we are progressing, research is becoming more and more interdisciplinary. So different people from different fields are coming to all other fields to explore the work, to use their work in their own particular research. So and as we know that different people have different kinds of preferences. So I think if the more options are available instantly over here, then that can have a positive impact. I definitely feel that. And apart from that, I have no other problems regarding the downloading format or any format in which the articles have been posted.
So PDF, PDFs, it sounds like PDF works.
PDFs are great, yeah. They work quite effectively, and I don't think any improvement is needed at this point of time. Yeah.
I had a question about how you discover interesting papers. Does that happen on arXiv for you or on other websites outside of arXiv?
Yes.
Can you talk me through that?
Yes, that's a very good question. So discovering important papers with important concepts is extremely important. So I will tell you that at least for me, the process happens in many ways. So it can happen by arXiv as well. So let's say this particular paper which of whose screen I was sharing, this is an extremely important and important paper in our discipline. So it basically connects mathematics with theoretical physics in an extremely surprising and unexpected way, which nobody had expected. And I think that many people, like not many, most people are not aware of how to explore or how to come across interesting papers. One thing which I regularly follow, one rule which I regularly follow is like, it's kind of non-clinical, I will admit, but I follow blogs of people, blogs of academicians, and over there they have sometimes links to some interesting works, which even link to some more interesting works, and so on and so forth. It forms a kind of chain kind of thing. You can understand what I can say. So this is effective. This is of course effective. I'm not denying that. And apart from that, one practice which I used to follow in my sophomore year more specifically, and which is I think an extremely good practice for people who are interested in interdisciplinary science. So let's say I'm talking from the perspective of a student. I'm not talking from the perspective of any faculty because I don't exactly know their research norms. So if a student learns any two different subjects, and if he feels that there might be, I'm not telling there will be, there might be certain connections between the two, and it is possible in this big world in which we are living, some person has already done some work on it, and if he has done the work, 80% chances that he has posted on the arXiv. And so to directly go to that work, I think Google is an important role in that. Like if he types something like connection between this field and this field, and the exact wordings may not match with the paper which he is trying to find, but he does not know what he's trying to find. He just knows the overall view on the landscape. So if in Google he types connection between so and so, and I myself have practiced this thing, and this has turned out to be super effective. If he types something like that, then in most cases I have seen that the Google algorithm turns out to like gives back the exact thing which is needed in that particular situation, which happens to be a preprint from an arXiv or a journal link to any particular other journal. But most of the times it happens to be from the arXiv because it's a large repository. This happens. And another way of discovering new work, which is, I guess, trivial. If you are reading a paper by one of your favorite authors or anybody you admire of in academia, So you can just click on them and just explore their recent articles. From there, you can explore new journals and new articles and new topics and new areas and so on and so forth. And of course, while you are reading an article, so if the author is capable enough, then he will write the article in such a way and he will make the reference in such a way that any interested reader will get linked to the area which he likes. This happens. I have myself faced this. Like, this may even happen for a short 2-page article in mathematics. This may happen for a 292-page long article in mathematics. If the referencing style is very good and if it's done in an effective way, then it surely helps the reader in exploring quite unexpected papers in arXiv and in many other places all over the internet. Yeah. And another source which recently is quite appealing to me is Wikipedia. So in the Wikipedia reference and further reading section as well, and the arXiv is also extensively used in Wikipedia. So there are also like many interesting papers which are usually not a part of the curriculum which is being taught in schools and universities are being linked, and we can go to the particular link, learn about many things. We can go to other links and explore, and so on. These things are effective strategies to discover.
I've heard another researcher mention Wikipedia as well.
Yeah.
A little bit of embarrassment, like, you know, Wikipedia isn't always thought of as a great reference source, but he mentioned the reference section of Wikipedia have been very helpful.
Like, you know, like many people, not only researchers, have say that Wikipedia is not an authentic place, people can edit and so on and so forth. But I will say that no, that's not a right approach. Like, nothing is an absolutely right source of place. So, but I will say that Wikipedia is extremely useful for, I will say, for many purposes. Like, Wikipedia enlists many informations which are not easily available in many other places. And even if it is available in other places, the location to that is mentioned in Wikipedia. And that is exactly because so many people have a control over it. And specific to mathematics, I can also mention another site which just wait a second, I will just go to the website math. Yeah. Yeah, so as far as mathematics is concerned, there is another website which I guess resembles Wikipedia in some ways, but of course it does not cover the wide range of Wikipedia. The gamut of Wikipedia is much more broader than this. But yeah, this is known as the Wolfram Math World, and this is a mathematical resources website, and the purpose of this is quite the same. Like, it tries to explain a topic, it tries to provide references, very important references, to many other works which are extremely obscure, and people may not even learn it even after spending years and years in their research career. And I've seen that, like, I have read theorems and resources from this particular resource, and they also link to arXiv some, like, most of the times. And I have come across theorems and results, and I have tried to tell them to active researchers in that field, but they have denied of hearing it previously. So yeah, this is also a very useful platform, and Wikipedia is there as well. So these are the resources which are, I think, really inevitable for working of any particular professional. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's really interesting to hear about. Have you noticed that language is a barrier for any of your fellow students?
Yes. So what I can say is that being from such a huge country, India, and like in our nation, so people from so many different languages reside, and they want to try and study and focus on one particular subject. It would be wrong if I just blatantly say that language is not a problem. It is a problem. It's a big problem. But I think that people who genuinely love science and have the true essence of curiosity in themselves, they will go far to any extent to break that barrier. Like, and truly speaking, the barrier may not be of the external language. Like a person may know the terminologies of the subject, but he or she may not be that much trained in English to understand each and every word of the paper or sentence. This happens very frequently. And the reverse also happens. A person may be trained in English, he may be scientifically trained as well, but he may not be that much well-versed in science, like well-versed enough to comprehend each and comprehend the papers which they are reading. So I think this mostly depends on the person on who is surfing, and by individual effort, this can be overcome. And yeah, so that's my answer.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing. I have a very open-ended question, which is, what if you had a magic wand? No limitations at all to what you could do. What would make finding and reading papers really easy?
So, so this is an interesting question. So, if suppose no particular limitation is exposed, the thing, So, I think I can do one thing. So, if I have that hypothetical power, I can do one thing. The people who are interested in research and interested in reading more papers, of course, to do research, you need to read papers and all those and so on. So I can list the list of people who are most active and doing quality work in the homepage of the person who is trying to access that. Like, for example, if a person is, let's say, interested in mathematics and in a particular subfield of mathematics, so through my power, or if one day such amazing algorithm comes, so I would try to enlist 5 or 6 names of excellent researchers who are working in that particular field in the homepage of that particular user or that particular student, let's say, and not the works, the users. Because if I, let's say, restrict the user to one particular work, then there's chance that he might not explore, he or she might not explore much. But I will try to enlist the names of 5 to 10 most active and excellent researchers on their page, so that whenever they open that, it pops up and he or she may click on that name, and the works of them may appear, and they may immensely benefit from that. So I think this can be a step, and if technology advances further in the future, we don't know, we might have something closer to that even. Yeah.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. You had mentioned a homepage for a user. Is that something that you wish arXiv had? Like a customized homepage for you, where you would log in and you would get something that you'd customized for yourself. Is that something you wish you had?
So my answer to that would be, it would be great if arXiv would have had that, but also I am quite satisfied with the current format and system of arXiv. So it would be great if it goes to that level, but at the same time, I'm having no problem with using it at this point of time. Yeah.
Okay, great. Is there anything else that you would like arXiv to know?
Yeah. So it was a great conversation overall, and like any another thing, overall speaking, something which I would like to suggest, and this is just a personal suggestion from my end, and which is let's say, yeah. So, and like one thing which I really like about is that after the pandemic, the arXiv has just focused on not only on scientific preprints like physical and physics, maths, and chemistry, computer science preprints. It has also linked the medRxiv and the bioRxiv over here, which is an extremely important step. Like, you will not believe, but I had people who were aware only about arXiv, did not know that something known as the medRxiv or the bioRxiv even existed, because every time, like for them, arXiv was not a particular homepage. They were, in some sense, not aware this page existed, you know. They, like, every time, whenever their professors used to give them some links, they would confine themselves to that link. and they would think that each page had that, but each paper has one particular link of arXiv, and the arXiv sign is embedded on the top of that. But they never knew that a proper homepage of arXiv exists, which enlists each and every subject. This I have seen in many cases. Each and every subject whose papers are there on the server, and they were very much unaware of this particular page. And so I think one improvement is that when each subject is over here, there can be some gaps between the wordings of each particular subtopics. I think this may be a very minor, maybe a very nice suggestion, but yeah, just I had this thing to tell that sometimes while reading it becomes a bit clumsy, and all this kind of hyperlinks come to be a bit, it is a bit strained to the eye. So if this can be improved in some way, it can be great. But yeah, overall, this is my only suggestion to this.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I wanted to share one link. Let me just find it and I'll post it in the chat.
Yeah.
To see if this is, if you find it more useful. I'm not coming up with it right now. Yeah, I'm not finding the page right now. My apologies.
Okay,
There's a page that lists all of the fields and their descriptions. And so I wanted to share that and see if it would be useful. But I can share that through email afterwards, actually.
Yeah. Sure. Be happy to see that. Yeah.
All right. So one thing that I got from that response is that you find the arXiv homepage useful, and you do use it to reference.
Yes. Okay. Sure. Of course. Like I will share how I find the arXiv homepage extremely useful, because is that when one fact is undeniable, that when any institution across the world, even when a particular discipline is taught, the way it is taught remains more or less very much confined. I mean, the precise thing which I mean is that when we are taught physics, we are, it is very unlikely that the teacher will say anything about the intersection with physics and other sciences like biology and even population genetics, or even statistics, or so on and so forth. But these are so extremely vast, and so much active work is done on that. So I think that someone needs something like this kind of structure, where one lists all the subfields of a particular subject, and even the subfield. Like even for mathematics, we have particular subfield, and even in that subfield, we have a number of categories, a number of classifications. So this, even if it does not do anything, it instills an idea into a student, an enthusiastic student. To the world is so big. There are so many big things to cover. There are so many things to read, and there's so many things to learn. There's so much of knowledge to there. And so for that purpose, I guess this is an amazing thing, the listing of this so many subjects. And this surely has had a positive effect on me, and I believe on many others. So yeah, it in some way helps to broaden our perspective towards knowledge of science and learning.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really interesting. Those are all my questions. That was so wonderful. Is there anything else that you would like to add or make sure that I take away from this interview?
Yes, so yes, I would finally like to add to thank you so much, ma'am, for having me over here. So I had never believed that someone from the authority would ever have time for an interview with I am just an undergraduate student. I have not even submitted my first entry. So it was great discussing with various aspects, and also I could put forward my views on things which I thought could have been improved, and some many other aspects and behaviors and cultures, most important in academia. So yeah, it was a great experience for me. Yeah,
Oh,
thank you so
wonderful.
much.
Thank you so much for sharing your time. Yeah, we are very interested in younger users,
Yes,
what their needs are and where they see their fields heading, and
yes.
what arXiv might need to provide in the
Yeah,
future. So we really
and another thing which I just want to mention in the end is that from my part, I do my best to educate people about various internet resources of academia, and it goes without saying that arXiv is one of the most important about that. So yeah, from my part, I try to tell people that yeah, this is the place, you will go there. You have to go there in the future, in whichever field you go, but the sooner you learn, the better. And yeah, so I think the proper education and learning how to use that in an effective manner is extremely important for future generations of undergraduate or even any kind of students who are interested in science and are interested in coming to this field. So I try to play my part. I have tried, and I will move on, try on. And yeah, so that's all I wanted to say.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry to keep you a little bit over our allotted time, but I really appreciate it.
Great pleasure. Yeah.
All right. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.